Everyone, Danny here today to talk to you about the audiobook Bushido Online, written by Nikita Thorn. Now, I'm fairly new to the whole lit RPG genre, really enjoying it. But that being said, I gotta say, this is a book that, to me, had some differences that really kind of separated it from other books in the lit RPG genre, and honestly, to me, made it feel more like the person was actually living in a game. What do I mean by that? Well, before I get to that, I have a favor to ask. If, like me, you love audiobooks, please subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications so you get notified when I post a new video, and come join me in my audiobook journey. Now, to the book. Before I get into what I mean by how it separated itself from other books of this genre, which, like I said, I'm fairly new to the genre, but I've been listening pretty much exclusively to it since I was introduced to it. What I mean is, this is a storyline where, I'm going to go back to the beginning here. You have a young man who is a martial arts MMA competitor, and he gets blinded in a tournament, and he's depressed. He's having a hard time dealing with it. He's offered an opportunity to enter into this virtual reality where all of a sudden he gets his sight back. Where all of a sudden he's able to live in this virtual reality. Now, right away, one of the differences between this book and some of the other ones that I've listened to, it doesn't explain how his body itself, is his body killed? Is his body put on life support? Can he come in and go out of the game? He's not magically transported into the world. It's technology that attaches to his body. So you assume his body has to be kept alive, but you're not told how. And then he enters this virtual reality world, and it's set in the Japanese shogun ninja era. And while he has experience with martial arts, he was an MMA fighter and an extremely good one. He has no experience with role-playing games. Like me, it would be like me being thrown into this world. And there's a lot to do with feudal Japan that he's completely lost on. With most of the other books that I've listened to, the player is cast into this world at an introductory stage in the world. Even if it's a game that has been well established and going on for a while, the player is one of the first people sucked in. That's not the case here. And the reason I say this book, to me, felt more like someone getting sucked into a virtual reality gaming world. One, the players that he runs into all have greater experience than him, which, if in real life he had no experience with role-playing games, would be the case. They all kind of know what's going on, and they expect him to know and understand what is going on, and instead he's kind of lost and has to figure it out. And people are willing to help him, and people are willing to take advantage of him. You run into both, which you would in real life. The really big difference, there's two main differences that stood out to me. One, the players, as he interacts with other players and as he learns about this world that he's been brought into, there are players that talk about the beta version. There's even one of the players that he befriends that was a player in the beta version, and this guy refers to, well, in the beta, this is what happened, but now I don't know. He runs into players who have created a character, decided they didn't like that character, discarded that character to create another character and go, you know what? I like my first character better. Go back, and of course, then they have to start over with the first character. Another thing, now while I've not played a lot of role-playing games, I've not even played a lot of video games, I have played video games like Donkey Kong, and with a video game like Donkey Kong, the video follows a progression. Whether I'm playing it, or my cousin Donald, who is huge into Donkey Kong, whether he's playing it, in order for me to get to the level that Donald was at, I had to follow the same progression and the same steps. I couldn't decide, hey, I'm just going to go off and follow this opposite storyline. The game is set up to progress through certain storylines. That's the way this book is. If you fail to complete a quest, then rather than the game going, oh, you failed, here's the penalty, on to the next quest, the game goes, oh, you failed, here's the penalty, redo. And you've got to redo that quest, and you've got to keep redoing quests and keep redoing quests until you succeed. And he runs into that with people who are like, hey, okay, so this is what's coming up, because as you go through, you'd learn what to expect, right? I mean, that's the way the video game learns. Okay, well, I'm going to need to jump here and dodge here and, different. Well, they learn that. And so, okay, so this is what's coming up. This is where I've always died. I've never been able to get past this point. So how do we get past this point? And they can kind of prepare and strategize ahead of time. Real life doesn't work that way. Games work that way. And none of the other lit RPG books that I've listened to have had that element in there. All of the other ones I've had, they succeed at 99% of the quests they're sent on, and the few that they fail on just disappear. Whereas with this one, they've got to keep redoing it. Another difference, and this is a smaller one, there are quests that you have to do. You have no choice in the quest. And as the game progresses, you learn why. Are you going to become I want to say shogun, and that's not the word. Anyhow, a ronin or a samurai. Everyone who follows the way of the sword is forced into this quest line, and without realizing it, they're choosing through their actions either to become a ronin or to become a samurai. And until all of a sudden you're assigned that category, you don't realize that is what you had been doing. And then after the fact, as he's sitting there talking to other people, they're like, oh, well, yeah, you made this choice. And this is really where they separate in the divide. And you turn out that all of the samurai, or you find out that all of the samurai or all of the ronins follow this same quest line to get there. Now, there are other quest lines that you can follow if you don't want to be a samurai or a ronin. But if you want to be a spirit animal, you're going to follow the same quest line as the other spirit animals. That makes it, to me, feel more like an actual video game, because the video games I've played worked and operated that way. There's a storyline, a main storyline, and a few branches that you can follow, but when they program it, they don't program in an infinite number of possibilities. I mean, that would just, I don't know a lot about programming, but that would seem to me like that would be a ridiculous thing to do with the game. So they set up scenarios and storylines that pretty much everyone playing the game has to go through. That is the way this book is. It is a book that, in the very beginning, through an interesting little tweak and twist that then the storyline diverged away from, and I'm assuming it's going to come back to later on. It made me think of the Land series by Aileron Kong. You've got a reference in the Land series to a larger overall plot line that you're going to have to keep listening to get involved in. And that first chapter introduces this kind of a plot line, and then you get into the story of Seiki. And I don't remember what his earthly name was, but in the game his name is Seiki, and he's the main character of the storyline. And it just follows his adventures through it. It's a book that from the very beginning was engaging and exciting. It was easy to follow, even for someone like me who does not play role-playing games, and I'm about to need to take a drink of water. It was very easy to follow, very, very easy to understand. The narrator, and I didn't write my notes this time. See, this is why I got to write notes. Don't remember the narrator's name, I'm sorry, but the narrator did an excellent job. Love the choice of the narrator. You get different voices. You can always tell from the voice who is speaking. Narrator did a really, really good job. I don't remember any language whatsoever, so as far as parental warnings would go, I can't think of any. There was no sex. There's a good bit of violence, but none of it is graphic at all. It's all, the fight scenes are well choreographed. They're easy to follow, but they're not graphic and bloody or anything like that. I mean, when someone dies, they respawn. So, like I said, parental-wise, there's nothing I would warn about on this at all. It's one of the better lit RPG books that I have listened to, and I'm anxious to get into book 2 in the series. There's a good bit of emotional drama thrown in, especially at the end of it, that this world becomes real enough to Seiki that some things that happen in his quest and his storyline take a really emotional toll on him. And that in and of itself makes this world that he has entered seem a lot realer. And that's one of the things that the author does a better job of than other storylines. In other lit RPG books, the one maybe weakness I'd say that's been there is when something traumatic happens, it doesn't have the impact on the player that you would expect it to have. Where in this one, it has that impact. The player at the end of the game is experiencing really, or at the end of the book, is experiencing really strong emotions that you would expect someone in real life who'd just gone through what he'd gone through to be experiencing. And they impact his gameplay, they influence the people around him. And because it's part of the storyline and the quest that he had to go through, his friends understand and they can relate, and so they can kind of be there with him and help him through it, which is really, really cool. I like the way it does the leveling. A lot of lit RPG books, you'll spend a good bit of the book listening to them go through their fact sheet, all of their different levels and powers and this, that, and the other thing. This doesn't do that. It gives you the levels that are relevant to what they're going through at the moment. When they level up, you learn what they've leveled up on, and then that's it. When they get a new weapon or piece of equipment, you learn what that is. When they're battling someone, you right away learn what that person's level is, and this is something that the book excels at. It excels at letting you know, okay, he's level 6, he's battling level 28. What does that mean? For someone like me who's never done a lit RPG, what does that mean? Well, I understand perfectly what that means in this game, and it's not done in a boring, sitting in the classroom learning kind of way. It's an exciting part of the battle to learn that, as Seiki has to strategize, or whoever his friends, they have to kind of strategize. And how do we deal with this greater power that, in some cases is so powerful that if I take one blow, I'm dead? How do I deal with that, and how do I overcome that? And while Seiki, because of his background and because he approaches the game differently, he does not understand the game, so he approaches the game differently. Due to that fact, he advances far enough into the game that it almost starts to look like, hey, he's going to become this overwhelming, overly powerful person for his level. And just when you really start to kind of feel that way, things catch up with him, and all of a sudden, bam, he's I don't want to give anything away, but it's that question is answered. No, he's not going to. He might be one of the better players, and he might eventually grow to be an exceptional player in the game. He probably will, but at this moment in the book, he is who he is supposed to be, and comparative to how those around him would be, except a better strategist. And so he has the advantages that being a better strategist would give him, but no more advantages than that. He doesn't get, overwhelming special equipment that all of a sudden a level 6 can defeat a level 30 with one swipe, anything like that. It is a really, really well done, excellent book. And like I said, I'm excited to get into book 2. If you like my review, hit the like button, please. If you like my channel, subscribe, turn on notifications. As I said, join me. Questions, comments, feedback, it's what the comment section is for. Put them in there. I promise I will respond. But most importantly, no matter what else you do today, make sure that today you listen to at least one really good book, and I highly recommend Bushido Online by Nikita. I should have taken notes. I forgot her last name. By Nikita, I think Thorn, and I apologize if I'm wrong on that. Anyhow, good day and happy 2019.